Just a stranger, she said quietly, trying to downplay the encounter. But Taehyung wasn't satisfied with her answer. His possessiveness flared up. The thought of another man being around Wine filled him with a twisted jealousy. He didn't like the idea of someone else protecting her, someone else getting close to her. As the days passed, Jungkook found himself thinking about Wine more often than he liked. He had always prided himself on his emotional control, but something about her innocence, her vulnerability, was breaking through his defenses. He didn't want to care, but he couldn't help it. Meanwhile, Wine's unease grew. Theung's behavior was becoming more unpredictable. His jealousy more intense. She started to feel like she was walking on eggshells around him, never knowing what might set him off. She couldn't understand why he was acting this way, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something bad was coming, and as Jungkook and Wine's paths continued to cross, the tension between them grew, pulling them both into a world of emotions they had long tried to avoid. For Jungkook, it was the fear of love. For Wine, it was the shadows of her past that she couldn't fully remember, but that still haunted her. Jungkook, a 26-year-old mafia leader, was known for his ruthless control over his empire and his ability to get whatever he wanted. For years, he had indulged in brief, meaningless encounters with women whenever he saw a player. These moments were devoid of emotion, serving only as temporary distractions from the weight of his life. Love and attachment were foreign concepts to him, something he had no interest in exploring, but everything changed the day he saw Wine. Days passed and Jungkook found himself unable to forget Wine. He became obsessed, thinking about her day and night. Despite having access to countless women, he found himself losing interest in them. None of them could compare to Wine, and for the first time in his life, Jungkook craved something more than just physical pleasure. He wanted Wine to be his and his alone. Determined to have her, Jungkook issued an order to his most trusted men. He wanted Wine brought to him, no matter the cost. His men, loyal and efficient, tracked her movements and finally found the perfect opportunity to take her. It was late one evening when they struck. Wine had just finished her shift at a small cafe where she worked, unaware that she was being watched. As she walked down a quiet street, a van pulled up beside her, and before she could react, she was grabbed and pulled inside. Everything happened so quickly that she barely had time to scream before a cloth was pressed over her mouth and darkness consumed her. When Wine woke up, she found herself in an unfamiliar, luxurious bedroom. The room was dimly lit and the air was thick with tension. Her heart raced as she realized she had been kidnapped, but she had no idea why or by whom. Panic set in as she looked around, trying to find a way out, but the door opened before she could move. Jungkook stopped inside, his presence dominating the room. He looked at Wine, his eyes dark and intense. Wine's fear grew as she recognized him, the man who had saved her from those thugs in the alley. But this time there was no comfort in his presence. Why am I here? She whispered, her voice trembling. Jungkook approached her slowly, his gaze never leaving hers. You're here because I want to, he said bluntly, his voice low and commanding, and when I want something, I take it. Wine backed away, her fear turning to anger. You can't just take me like I'm some object, she cried out, trying to muster the courage to stand up to him. Jungkook's expression softened slightly, but there was still an air of danger about him. You don't understand, Wine. From the moment I saw you, I knew you were different. You have made me feel things I didn't think I was capable of feeling. I need you and I'm not going to let you go. Wine shook her head, tears welling up in her eyes. This isn't right. You can't force someone to be with you. Jungkook sighed, his frustration evident. I'm not trying to force you, Wine. I'm offering you a choice. Stay with me and I will protect you. give you everything you could ever want, but if you try to leave, he trailed off, the unspoken threat hanging in the air. Wine stared at him, her mind racing. She knew she was trapped, that there was no easy way out of the situation, but despite her fear, she couldn't help but feel a strange pull toward him, as if some part of her was drawn to the darkness he embodied. What if I say no? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jungkook's jaw tightened, and for a moment he looked almost vulnerable. Then I will let you go, he said quietly, but know this, I won't stop wanting you, and I won't stop trying to make you mine. There was a silence between them, heavy with unspoken emotions. Wine didn't know what to do. She couldn't feel the intensity of his desire, but she asked, knew that giving in means surrendering to a life she hadn't choose. I need time, Jungkook nodded, his gaze softening. Take all the time you need. He said, but remember, no one else can have you. You are mine, Lion, and I will wait for as long as it takes. With that, he turned and left the room, leaving Vine alone with her thoughts as the door closed behind him. Vine sat down on the bed, her mind swirling with confusion and fear. She didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain, her life had changed forever, and there was no way back. Meanwhile, Taehyung was struggling with his own dark obsession. The news of Vine's kidnapping had reached him, and it stirred a deep, unsettling rage within him. He had always desired control over her, but now, with another man involved, this jealousy turned into a consuming fury. That night, Taehyung returned home heavily intoxicated. The alcohol only intensified his frustration and dark desires. Taehyung made his way to Wine's room, the alcohol making his steps unsteady. When he found the room empty, his anger grew. He sank onto the bed, clutching the pillow that still held her scent. The thought of another man having her drove him mad. Where are you, Wine? He muttered, his voice lowered with rage and depression. Why did you leave me? His mind was clouded with twisted memories of their past. He recalled that night years ago when he had taken something from her, a night that had left both of them scared. The thought of her being with someone else consumed him with jealousy, determined to find her. Taehyung stumbled out of the house, his mind set on reclaiming what he left was rightfully his. The night was dark, and his path was fueled by a dangerous mix of anger and obsession. Back at Jungkook's mansion, Wine struggled with her thoughts. Despite Jungkook's assurances, she felt trapped and uncertain. Jungkook, noticing her distress, approached her again. I know this is hard for you, but I want you to understand that I'm not here to hurt you. I'm trying to offer you a choice, even if it doesn't feel like one right now. Wine looked at him, her emotions swirling. I don't know what to think. Jungkook, you're saying I'm safe here, but how can I believe that when you have taken me against my will? Jungkook's gaze softened as he reached out, though he didn't touch her. Just give it some time. You don't have to make any decisions right away. I want you to see that I am not like the others. I want to make sure you are okay. Ryan nodded slowly, but her heart still racing with uncertainty. She was caught between the fear of the current situation and the strange, unsettling comfort Jungkook's presence provided. As the night continued, she faced the reality of her new life, uncertain of what the future held, but resigned to the fact that things had irrevocably changed.